Okay, so this is find an assumption question, argument. So wait, I always go. Seems like a difficult one. This is from GMAT Prep, maybe OG. I'm not sure. Anyways, so Ythex has developed. My goal here, Avi, is to just focus on the questions. I don't really care about the answers, but I'm going to focus majority on the question stem as much as possible. Ytex has developed a small diesel engine that produces 30% less pollution than the engine made by its main rival Onez, now widely used in Marania. Okay, so that's good. Ytex should probably beat Onez. So Marania hopefully will adopt Ytex, maybe. It's well suited for the thriving warehouse business in Marania. Okay, that's even great. Although it costs, so it does cost more. So it does cost more, but it's suited and it's 30% less. So will businessmen take it? The Maranian government plans to ban within the next 2 years the use of diesel engines with more than 80% of the current diesel engine particulate emission in Mariana. And Onez will not be able to retool its engine to reduce emissions to reach that target. Okay, so you're going to reduce it in the next 2 years. With it's going to be 20% less, I guess. Everyone has to reduce it by 80 by at least 20%. It has to be 20% less than what everyone's using. 100 minus 20, 100 minus 80% should be 20% less. And owners probably will not be able to do that. So can white text seems to be good. Seems to be good. 30% less. So white text should be the only player. Hopefully there are no other players. So if the ban is passed, white text engines ought to sell well after that time. So the assumption is, I think it's saying owners cannot get 20% lower, thus Ytex should sell. I think there are some issues with costs. Are there any others? Are there other tools? Other This is the conclusion. So is cost not an issue? Are there other tools? Are there no other competitors? I guess something along those lines. So, anyways, so which is the assumption? It ought to sell well. So, does it have to be true that for this to be true for the white text to sell well? So let's see. Let's see.
So I'm looking for something what has to be true for this for Ytex ought to sell well once the ban passes. Okay. So Mariana's warehouse and transshipment buys more diesel engines of any size than other types of buys more diesel engines of any other size. Other types of engines. It's irrelevant for sure. That doesn't have to be true. Is likely to be able to reduce the cost of its small within the next 2 years. Huh. I don't think this has to be true because what if there's no competitor? What if Ytex is the only player? Can't is likely to be able to reduce, and that is not even likely to be able to reduce. Does that have to be true? I don't think so because we don't know if Onez is the. What if was the only player, and now everybody has to, even though it's more expensive. Everybody has to adopt it. It doesn't have. I don't think this has to reduce. I don't think so. The government is generally favorable to anti-pollution. Okay, but that doesn't have to be true. What does that got to do with ought to sell well? The government's ban on high levels caused by if passed will not be difficult to enforce. Yeah, that has to be true. There are many things in my home country. In many countries, all the laws are on the books, but no one's enforcing them. And if everything has to be 20% lower in terms of fuel efficiency, it doesn't mean that It's not, it doesn't mean that, just because a law is passed, it'll be enforced. Everything's in many developing countries. That's the problem. The law is on the books, but no one cares. That could be true. The other manufacturers of small diesel engines, if there are any, have not produced an engine as popular and clean running as Ythex's new engine. I actually think this is a legitimate thing as well. If there are any, have not produced an engine as popular and clean running as Ythex's new engine. I think this also may be true actually. So between D and E, I don't know. I mean, if there are any, have not produced an engine that is as popular and clean. Between D and E, I'm just not sure. Could, if passed, will not be difficult to enforce. If I negate it, will be difficult to enforce. Yeah, then that'll crush the argument that it ought to sell well. But maybe, I don't, if the other manufacturers, if they have produced an engine that is popular and clean, actually maybe E maybe makes more sense here. Because if there is something that is produced as popular and clean running, then why wouldn't people flock towards the other manufacturers? I don't know. Between D and E, I think E makes more sense. I don't know why, but I think between D and E, I'm not sure. But even D also seems to be pretty legitimate. The government's ban on high levels of pollution will not be difficult to enforce. I guess this maybe is talking a little bit about maybe will. I'm not. Yeah, between D and E, I'm not sure. I think E maybe, but I'm not sure.